Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Hi, this is David Gabay, and you're listening to the Zev Brenner Show.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
Here is your host.
And we're back. I'm very pleased. I know our guest for so many years, and I've probably been talking to him at least 4 or 5 years about coming on the program with us. He's a 15-year veteran of the police department. He is the highest-ranking yarmulke-wearing officer in the NYPD, and I'm talking about Deputy Inspector Richie Taylor. He was promoted recently from captain to deputy inspector. He originally grew up in Brooklyn and Manhattan Beach and Midwood. He went to Yeshiva of Manhattan Beach, Torah College. They still live in Brooklyn. And it's an honor to have you on the program. Thank you for joining us.
It's an honor, Zev. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
How'd you get involved with the police department?
Ever since I can remember, when I was 15 years old, I enrolled in the NYPD Police Explorer program in the 61st Precinct. That's designed for youth who want to career in law enforcement and see what it's about. You go into the precinct, you actually go on some ride-alongs with police officers, you go to different events, details, meetings, and you get to see what it's all about. And from there, I went to, Hatzalah. I was studying to be an EMT when I was 17. I took the state EMT test when I was just before I was 18 years old. I got a waiver to take the test before 18. I passed it. I joined Hatzalah. And actually, I responded I had great memories with Hatzalah and some memories with Hatzalah that are horrific, like with the World Trade Center on 9/11. I remember responding to the towers before they collapsed and seeing the police officers, seeing the firefighters working past exhaustion, helping people. And I remember that gave me the motivation to want to continue that legacy of helping people, especially in the most horrific crisis.
Wow. So you always wanted people, and what did your parents say? What did your friends say? Because it's not your typical Jewish profession. It's not your typical Orthodox Jewish profession.
That's true, and I saw that there was a need for it. I saw that there was the community. When I spoke to my friends, community members, they were very supportive. But I remember, especially looking back, there was a lot of skepticism. They said that, well, I don't know. A lot of people say they want to be a police officer, but not everyone really goes through with it. And I grew up with a lot of great friends and family, and I remember the skepticism. And they said that, okay, sure, you'll be a police officer. And actually, I was married, and I told my wife, who's been extremely supportive, and she was behind me the whole way. And I went to the police academy, and throughout the years, working different tours, working different assignments, I've served in just about 11, 12 commands. And my wife has been a tremendous supporter. And without her, I really couldn't do what I do. And just like without Chief Madry, I couldn't do what I do.
No, it's terrific. It sounds like he really wants to be community-oriented, which is what it's all about. And yes. Are there a lot of Jewish police officers at the NYPD?
There are. I would imagine there's at least a few hundred.
And Orthodox ones, how many are there?
So Orthodox, maybe there's certainly under 100. That, as Chief Madry said, part of the reasons that we're doing the outreach. We were on the radio last Thursday night with Councilman Kalman Yeager. We're on the radio show with you tonight, Zev Brenner. Part of it is the outreach. It's to show the Jewish community that it looks to me very much. It's given me opportunities that I really could never have gotten anywhere else. Working with the Chesed organizations that I do, working with Shomrim, Hatzalah, Mesaskim, Chesed Shalemis, you name it, that it gives you the opportunity to really get the job done. Just for example, Yankee Meyer from Mesaskim, he will call me up. There's been a tragedy in the transit system, and they need power shut off to do their work. And I'm able to call an executive at the Transit Bureau and our partners in the MTA and extend that police service to have that done so Mesaskim could do their work, whether it's a showman with a missing child or a missing Alzheimer's patient, like Baruch Moskowitz calls me up to be wild, and they have the situation where they need us to get involved with something. I'm able to just expedite that. and it helps a lot. Hatzalah, for example, my shlozer from Hatzalah called me a few months back, and there was someone transmitting an unauthorized transmission on their radio system. So I was able, and for a not-for-profit, for an emergency ambulance service like Hatzalah or any emergency ambulance service, will track the person responsible for doing that. And I was able to do that for them. So this way they can free up their radio for life-saving work. So I'm able to help in a lot of ways that I couldn't do if I wasn't a police officer.
Have you found anti-Semitism in the police department?
Not at all. I'll tell you that some of the best people I know, some of the greatest people I've met, are people who work for the NYPD. And just getting along, it's a very rewarding relationship that I found with so many people here. And just like you heard from Chief Madry before, the tone is set from the top, from Chief Madry to the police commissioner. I know Chief Madry. Actually, I served in housing as a sergeant, and Chief Madry was my chief when I was in Brooklyn South Housing, and then I was a lieutenant in the 88th precinct, in just west of Williamsburg, in Fort Greene. And Chief Madry was actually my chief also in Brooklyn North when I was there. And then he's my chief, of course, now in community affairs. So I've worked with Chief Madry as a sergeant, as a lieutenant, as a captain, and now as a deputy inspector. And the tone is set from him, from the police commissioner, that everyone's mission is the same. It's to provide the best and most optimum services that we can. And as a matter of fact, just recently, the police commissioner for a historic visit went with Devorah Halberstam to the OHEL, Ari Halberstam, who was murdered on the Brooklyn Bridge on March 1st, 1994, when he was mortally shot on the Brooklyn Bridge. Police Commissioner Shea went to the OHEL and went to the gravesite of Ari Halberstam. And I was fortunate to be there, and I can tell you that is something that will never leave me, to see and to be there, especially with the commissioner, with Devorah Halberstam. And I'll tell you also, when I was a sergeant, when I was studying for sergeant, I was a police officer studying for the sergeant civil service exam. One of my favorite instructor was actually Police Commissioner Dermot Shea. He was deputy inspector, my rank at the time, and he's taught me so much about promotional exams and about going up the ranks. I have tremendous gratitude to him and to Chief Madry for giving me this position and for allowing me to do the work that I do every day.
Does this mean one day you're going to become commissioner of the police department? You're going to follow in?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's one day at a time.
We're with Deputy Inspector Richie Taylor. He is the top-ranking Orthodox yarmulke-wearing police officer in the NYPD. Let's go to David in Brooklyn. David in Brooklyn, you've been patiently waiting. So go ahead. You have a question for our guest. Go ahead, David.
Hi, Zev. How are you?
Good. How are you tonight?
Good. Hi, Deputy Inspector Richie Taylor. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I just want to know, I want to commend Richie Taylor for his job. I never saw him put his phone down, constantly working, and the passion that he has for the department. And I never, ever saw him take a break. Even if I'm talking to him, he's on the phone with another line doing something else and helping. And we really evaluate how much you do for the community. You're really an amazing person, Richie.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that.
And you know, Zev, you asked the chief earlier how strong or how many people are in the police department. It's not how many people. There are some police officers that are worth 10 and 20 and 100 people. Some of them really give their all, and the police department is a lot more than 30 or 35,000. And we should definitely support them as a community. We should never tie their hands, because without law and order, we don't have a community.
We need law and order, and we need to refund the police, is what I've been saying before. Anyway, thank you for your phone call.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Richie. Take care. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Let's
Bye-bye.
go to Ora in Flatbush. Ora in Flatbush, you have a question for our guest. Go ahead, please.
Hi. Great hearing Richie Taylor on the radio. Thanks for having him. I have a quick question.
Go ahead. Your question or comment for
I
our guest.
recently read that now you can report accidents online and complaints, make some, NYPD complaints online as well. And I'm just curious if maybe you can explain to us exactly how that works and how that's different. I know you used to have to make, either the accident report at the scene or go into the precinct within a certain number of days. But what's changed now?
Yes. So if there is a motor vehicle collision not involving any type of criminality, not involving anyone who left the scene of the collision or anyone that's suspected to be intoxicated, that means it's just property damage. Instead of calling 911, having the police respond, which can take some time because so much else going on, emergencies and things like that. The
Usually
police department
a lot of time.
Right. So now there's a link online. If you just do a search engine of NYPD accident report online or complaint report online, you can actually fill out the details of the collision. And actually, more than that, if there's a petty larceny or any type of crime that's not considered one of the major index crimes, but rather a minor petty larceny or lost property that's been taken, like there's something someone can't find their wallet or credit cards, then depending on what it is, depending on what's lost, if it's just a small amount of money or just a wallet, then you can actually make that report on the Internet. This way you don't have to wait for the police to respond. That report actually gets electronically forwarded to the precinct where it'll still be reviewed, and you'll be able to get a complaint report number and forward that to whether it's the insurance company or you're able to just have that for your records that you made that report. So it just makes it more easy, more simple to have a report prepared without having to go through the time-consuming steps of a police response. So it just makes it more effective. And yeah.
No, that's great. And then how would that get sent to you? That number or that report?
So you would then actually get a correspondence back with the number. You can also always call the precinct if you needed a little sooner. And once you have that, then you can call the insurance company, and you would have the copy of the report if it's an accident report, or if it's a petty larceny, something that's stolen, you would have the complaint report number for your insurance company. And again, it's only for minor type of instances, like if someone has $2,000 stolen, then we'd still want to have the police respond to investigate it. Or if there's a collision with injuries or criminality is suspected, then the police would still respond to conduct the investigation. This is only for minor level issues or a collision with only property damage that's on the minor level.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyway,
that's very helpful.
Thank you for your good call. We appreciate that. We're speaking with Deputy Inspector Richie Taylor. He is the highest-ranking Orthodox Jewish yarmulke-wearing police officer in the NYPD. We're going to be right back. And by the way, you can always catch us at TalklineNetwork.com. We're on 24 hours a day. We're on different radio stations with different programming. We're going to be right back.
Talkline Radio and TV with Zev Brenner is just phenomenal. Everybody concerned about the Jewish community should listen and watch. He has the best guests. He asks the most interesting questions. He's always so well prepared. It's talk radio and television from a Jewish point of view at its very best.
To advertise on the Talkline network and Talkline's email and social media blasts reaching over 70,000 people, please call 212-769-1925, extension 100. That's 212-769-1925, extension 100. Or email info@talklinenetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now your host.
Our final stretch with Deputy Inspector Richie Taylor. He's the highest-ranking Orthodox yarmulke-wearing police officer in the NYPD. Let's go to Stan in Forest Hill. Stan, you have a question for our guest. Go ahead, Stan.
Yes. Is this the inspector? Is that his title?
Deputy Inspector.
Deputy Inspector, a gentleman that was on before got me sick to some extent because his comments, we got to all talk, we got to do this and that. It got me annoyed because I live in Forest Hills, and the situation in Forest Hills has gotten worse. Maybe they're cutting budgets, but the police have to be out there, and they're not out here. Their cars are nowhere to be seen. We've got people with these motorcycles running down the boulevard as if it's Indianapolis 500 nightly and daily, and there are no police doing nothing.
So let me let the Deputy Inspector respond, because we're almost out of time. Deputy Inspector, go ahead.
Yes, I'll give you, if you can call our office tomorrow, we definitely speak to the precinct concerns.
Forest Hills Precinct, I think it's 112.
107. Yes, the 112 precinct. I will certainly speak with the commander there.
Nobody does anything. I mean, I don't see
now
police
you're
anyway around
understand.
here.
You're bringing a good point. You're bringing it to the deputy inspector. He's going to make a call to the precinct tomorrow. So you're going to see some results just because you called in tonight.
I've called 100 times to the police. Nothing. Go ahead.
But the deputy inspector hasn't called. There's a difference.
Well, we'll see. Give him a shot.
Okay. Anyway, thank you for your call. We're almost,
no problem.
Question for you. I know that you're work with the Jewish community. That's part of what you do, Deputy Inspector Richie Taylor, Yechiel Taylor. So tell us, I know you deal with the Israeli Day Parade, you dealt with the Levaya of Reb David Feinstein of blessed memory. So tell us about some of those events, what you've done.
So I'll tell you, when the Gadol Dor, when David Feinstein was nifter a few months ago, I got a call. I was on Erev Shabbos that they were making preparations, and then I got a call about an hour before Shabbos that Levi was being planned. And I knew Rav David Feinstein very well. I learned at MTJ. I asked Rav David Feinstein Shilas, so to be part of the team to prepare the Levi, especially during COVID, to make sure that it's with the proper kavod for the Gadol Dor, working with Masaskim, Yanki Meyer, and Salah, the officials there, to make sure that it's as smooth as considering the circumstances that it could be during COVID, that we still had about 5,000 people there. It was an awesome responsibility that I know. Like we all know, Hashem only puts people into places He wants, and you're in a position for a reason, and you have to use that. So to use that with the seichel, with the intelligence, is an awesome responsibility, and that's what I strive for every day.
I want to try to squeeze in Joel from New City. I believe an Orthodox police officer, one of the first, right, Joel?
That's correct. I was there from October the 9th. October the 9th. Yes, I served. I wore a yarmulke. I served from October the 9th, 1967, until I retired on August the 24th, 2012.
Okay, and
wow, very nice to meet you.
Likewise, and what was the highest? But I think our guess is the highest ranking Orthodox.
Well, I couldn't be. No, the highest I did was captain, but I had retired. And the chief of patrol, who was at that time Joe Esposito, I don't know if the inspector knows that name.
Sure.
I was appointed. Yeah, and I was appointed in July of 2012 to be the deputy inspector. And unfortunately, because I had retired after 45 years on the job, I was not eligible.
Well, I appreciate you calling in. It sounds like you have a great story to tell, too. And we thank you for participating in our show tonight.
And another individual was a guy by the name of Moshe. He was he made inspector in Israel. He served from the New York City Police in Israel.
Wow, that sounds like a major compliment.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you for sharing with us. We're almost out of time. Wish you would have called earlier, but thank you for calling tonight. We appreciate that.
Right, thank you.
Deputy Inspector Richie Taylor, I know you're doing such great work. I know you for many years. You're there to work with the Jewish community back and forth.
Yeah.
There's been a little friction with the police department and the Orthodox. I think things have quieted down, right, in the last year?
I think it's quieted down. We always have the moments. I remember a few years back, due to the sensitivity of this, there was a boy who was threatening suicide in Flatbush here in the middle of the night. We got a phone call. I was there. We actually talked him off the ledge, literally, at 3 a.m, right in Flatbush here. So we have our challenges. Every day is different, but the men and women of the NYPD, working with our partners and many successful organizations, we do the job, and we get the job done well. We make a Kiddush Hashem as much as we can, and we do the best we can for the community every day. We strive to do the best we can.
Final question. If somebody wants to become a police officer, do you recommend it? I know there's a recruitment drive. Are they getting people from the Jewish community and the Orthodox community that are participating, that want to become a police officer?
I do hear so. Yes, I do. I do encourage it very much. Again, it's given me the opportunity to do what I've explained here, and there's so much more. I know we have a short amount of time, but it's given me the opportunity to do so much that I wouldn't have the chance to do any of what I'm doing in any other profession. So I appreciate it, and I highly recommend it for anyone who feels they can do the job.
Definitely. So how can people get more information about joining the police department? We're out of time.
If you go NYPD Recruit, if you go online or call 212 Recruit. They have all the information. It's a great rewarding
Deputy
career.
Inspector Richie Taylor, thank you. We're out of time. We're TalklineNetwork.com.
Thank you, Zev.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Go to our website, TalklineNetwork.com. We're on 24 hours a day. Call me at 212-769-1920 at any time. Happy to talk to you. Thank you for listening.